Cha Hae-In is one of the oldest hunters in solo leveling Arise, but is actually still one of the best, which is why in this video I'm going to be showing you all how you can best build Cha Hae-In. And if you want to maximize your Cha Hae-In's damage, then the best artifact sets for you to go for will be using the 4 set effect of Burning Curse, as this will give you a flat 20% damage increase as well as another 10% damage increase after 100 seconds has passed. However, unfortunately you will take an extra 20% extra damage, however that's not important. And then when you combine that 4 set effect of Burning Curse alongside the Expert set, then you can also get way more damage as well, as the Expert set on its 4 set effect basically says whenever you land a crit you'll have a 50% chance to increase your attack stat by 1.6%, and this can be applied every second and can also actually stack up to 100 times as well, which means you can get an increase of 160% of your attack. And then also all of these other artifacts and also accessory stats will also be very good for her as well. For all of Cha Hae-In's stats, it's going to be very self-explanatory, as she is an attack scaler, which means on her helmet you'll want to go for attack percent or additional attack on the main stat. For the body armor, additional defense or defense percent are the 2 only options you can go for, however it doesn't really matter which one you go for. The gloves will be the exact same as the helmet, as you can get additional attack or attack percent. And then finally the boots, you'll 100% want to always go for critical hit damage, as she is a crit based DPS. And then for the main stats on your accessories, for your necklace you want to go for additional HP or HP percent, as once again those are the only 2 options you can actually get. And then for the bracelet, light damage percent is going to be a must, as of course she is of the light attribute. And then of course the ring will be either attack percent or additional attack will be the ones you want to go for. And then finally the earrings will always give you additional mana points, which brings me on to all of her best substats. And attack percent, additional attack, critical hit rate and critical hit damage are going to be your 4 main substats you want to go for, as those 4 stats are going to be what will help increase her damage the most. However, all of these other substats are still pretty good as well. So moving on to all of Cha Hae-In's best weapons, and she actually has a ton of different options for you to use, as her best in slot weapon is going to be Sword of Light, which is her own exclusive weapon, and this will increase her basic skill damage by 5%, which can go up all the way to 20%. And also whenever you do use a basic skill, you can then increase your critical hit damage by 2% for 12 seconds, which will stack up to 6 times, which in total at A0 can give you a 12% increase. But once you do actually get the weapon to A5, you can then increase that to a 48% critical hit damage increase instead. The Spiky Shark Water Gun is also absolutely amazing, as it will increase your QTE skill damage as well as your basic skill damage by up to 10% as well. And because in Cha Hae-In's kit she uses a ton of basic skills, this will be a very good free-to-play option for a lot of you. And then finally the Steel Bow will be a great SR weapon for you to use, as it will also be able to increase your critical hit damage by up to 24%. But to really get the most out of Cha Hae-In's damage, you're going to definitely have to level up her correct skills. And by far Cha Hae-In's best skill in her entire kit is going to be the Dancer, which is her first basic skill. And at first the damage of this skill might seem pretty low, as the highest amount of damage you can go to is 618% of her attack as damage and is on a 12-second cooldown. However, what makes this skill really good is the fact that when you use this skill you'll be able to apply Waltz of the Sword to you, and what Waltz of the Sword will allow you to do is basically it will allow you to use the Dancer an infinite number of times for up to 3 seconds. And because the Dancer's animation is really fast, it means you can get a ton of these off in quick succession, which means you'll get a ton of damage from this skill. And not to mention, this skill will also then be able to increase your attack and also critical hit damage by 8% through applying the Dancer buff to yourself, which can be stacked up to 3 times, and that limit can actually be stacked up to 5 times if you do have her A1 as well. And then her second best skill for you to level up is going to be her ultimate, which is called Light of the End, as this will have a massive damage multiplier, as it can go up to 4083% of her attack as damage. But the main important thing about this skill is the fact that when you attack a target inflicted with the brand effect, your damage will increase by 30%. And the brand debuff is basically something that she applies through using the Dancer and her passive and also her QTE skill. And what brand does is basically it essentially will increase the amount of critical hit damage that your enemies take by 12%, as well as also the chance that they will actually receive critical hit damage as well by 12%, which makes it really good. And then next up is Sword of Light, which is just sort of like a mini version of her ultimate, as it will have a really high damage multiplier and will also be able to increase your damage by 15% when attacking an enemy with brand. So this will be another fantastic one for you to level up as well. And then finally her core attack Sword Dance is really good, because in hunter mode when you're spamming a ton of basic skills with Cha Hae-In, it means you'll get your core attack very easily and very quickly, which means you can actually use quite a lot of them, so this will be a great skill for you to level up as well. And earlier I did also mention the fact that Cha Hae-In's A1 will actually increase the amount of Dancer buffs that you can actually stack, but also all of her other 4 advancement dupes are also very, very good, as her A2 can increase your critical hit rate by 16%. Your A3 will increase your basic skill damage by 50% when attacking an enemy with the brand effect, so once again, amazing. Her A4 will increase your critical hit damage by 16%, and then her A5 is also absolutely broken, as you can increase the damage and also critical hit rate of your ultimate by 20%, and also an extra 2% depending on how many dancer buffs that you do have. So then finally, to end off today's video, we have all of Cha Hae-In's best synergies and also just her best team in general. And easily 100% Cha Hae-In's 2 best characters to run with her are going to be Go Gun-hee, as well as also Min Byung-gu. As Go Gun-hee's sole purpose in this team is to be able to deal a ton of break damage through his core attacks, as well as also just a lot of damage in general, but it's also going to be because of his A1 dupe, which can apply Will of Brilliant Light. And this basically says for every light team member in your team, you'll be able to increase your whole party's light damage and also their critical hit damage by 8% as well, which means in total you can get a 24% increase. And the same also goes for Min Byung-gu, as Min Byung-gu's ultimate can apply a party-wide critical hit damage increase, as well as also his Heavenly Blessing buff, which will increase damage and critical hit rate as well. He has the Punishment debuff, which will increase the amount of damage your enemies take. He also has healing through his Light Glimmer buff. And then also finally, his QTE skill will also increase all of your team members' ultimate charge by 50%. But then some other great hunters you can use are going to be the likes of Baek Yoonho, as well as also Park Hee-jin, as Baek Yoonho can offer a lot of damage through his Violent Explosion, as well as also defense decreasing, and not to mention his heavy amounts of break damage. But for Park Hee-jin, what makes her so good is her ability to charge your whole team's power gauge by 10% whenever she uses any of these skills. But it is also her own exclusive weapon, which will basically increase her ultimate skill damage by 5%, but then also when she uses her ultimate, you'll be able to increase the ultimate skill damage of the team member with the highest total power by 5%, and then both of these damage values can be increased all the way up to 20% as well. And then finally, for Cha Hae-In's best shadows, Egress will by far be your best Shadow Authority leader, as that critical hit rate increase that you can get by up to 7% will be really, really good for her ultimate, and just for her damage in general, as with her ultimate, if you don't crit, it's not doing damage, so you need to make sure you're as consistent as possible. But also Big Rock is amazing, as you can increase your basic skill damage by 8 to 11%, I believe, which will also heavily benefit Cha Hae-In a lot as well. Which will also leave Serbi, as well as also Iron as your 2 best supportive shadows for her, as Iron has the ability to apply defense decreasing, as well as also a shield for all of your other shadows. And then Serbi is absolutely amazing, as his combustion debuff will basically increase the amount of damage that your enemies will take by 5%, as well as apply a DOT to them, and is actually permanent as well, which is unbelievable. So there you have it, that is a complete guide on how to best build Cha Hae-In, and overall she is an amazing DPS who really hasn't fallen off too much ever since she released. But most importantly, if you did enjoy this video, then don't forget to like and subscribe and click the link down below to support me as a creator for the game, and as always, I will see you all in the next video. Peace!